I want to talk about the Speaking with American Men project. Now, if you have not heard of this, this is a much mocked project funded by Democratic donors, Democratic interest groups in the wake of the 2024 election. It is going to spend $20 million over a 2-year span to try to study why Democrats have so many problems talking to and like 18 to 29-year-old men. Okay, so this seems to me to be sort of the kind of idea you cook up in a group, in a meeting, and it's not a terrible idea, but you probably should keep it as quiet as possible, because when it gets cast, as it has been cast, when it gets cast as Democrats are trying to learn how to talk to young men, and they're spending $20 million on it, it doesn't look good. But I also think there is some value in this, because Democrats do have a problem reaching young men. 18 to 29-year-old men voted for Donald Trump 49% to 48% over Kamala Harris in 2024. It was one of the huge gains he made in the election. So if Democrats want to change, they do have to win over young men. Is this the project to do it? I'm not sure. But I was fascinated because the first it's a 2-year study, as I mentioned, but the first round of information and data came out. Politico reported it on it this morning. So this is from 30 focus groups as well as a national poll of young men. Now, the conclusions here are not terribly surprising. So Elise Hogue, who is one of the people involved in this, here is her quote about what the focus groups say. Democrats are seen as weak, whereas Republicans are seen as strong. Young men also spoke of being invisible to the Democratic coalition, and so you've got this weak problem, and then you've got this I don't think they care about me problem, and I think the combination is kind of killer. Now, you could have found out that young people think Democrats are too weak by just listening to my conversations from my Out of the Wilderness series, because that's what you hear over and over and over again. This idea that Donald Trump, even if you don't agree with him, is strong and tough, and that Democrats are kind of weak and namby-pamby, for lack of a better word. I also, one other thing, so this Speaking with American Men project did a national poll. This is kind of fascinating. 27% of young men view the Democratic Party positively. 27%. 43% view the Republican Party favorably. So they do have a problem here. There's no question, right? Like, tough is important. Strong is important when young men are voting. I would say when anyone, but especially when young men are voting. And Democrats have a problem. So I think it's easy to mock the Speaking with American Men project. And look, I've done it too. $20 million to learn how to talk to young men is not exactly how you want this framed. You want it framed as, look, we have struggled with 18 to 29-year-old men. The party needs to do better, and we're going to talk to them and figure out what's interesting. What are they interested in? How can we reach them? Why are we failing? Like, these are all things that political parties should do. But it is fascinating to me how badly it is looked. Now, their initial conclusions, candidly, are not particularly surprising, but I think it is important for the Democratic Party to at least acknowledge that young men feel invisible to the Democratic Party. In addition to the fact that they think the Democratic Party is basically weak, they also think the Democratic Party doesn't speak to them in any way, doesn't care about them in any way. And that is a big, big problem for the party. So I actually think that as much mockery as this takes, there may well be some interesting things here, just in that the party is willing to say, yes, we have a problem, and yes, we need to fix it. And these first inklings from this big study suggest to me that the problem is pretty deep, right? It's a brand problem, which we have talked about. The Democratic brand broadly is seen as too weak and too woke. That is especially true among young men. And I think that whole idea that young men don't think the Democratic Party even cares about them is as big, if not bigger, a problem. So I'll put some links to the study so that you can see it. But anyway, easy to mock, but I actually think might be somewhat worthwhile. Although $20 million, I could probably have done it for 2 million. All right, everyone, do one favor for me. Hit that subscribe button. You get a ton of my content for free, and it helps me build my audience and my career as an independent news creator. Take care.